Welcome everyone to the first first full meeting of 2025. First order of business, let's introduce the board members, and then after we introduce ourselves, if you guys could go down and introduce yourselves. We'll start with Len.
Len Alcantara, Director.
Kathleen Sartoris, Director.
Tom Swikowski, President.
Steve Belacqua, Vice President.
Joanne Ellison, Secretary.
Don Berninger, Director.
Marty O'Shea, ex officio Board Member Emeritus.
Mike Odell, ALC, ex officio.
John Reed, Director of Operations.
Bree Dieter, Fitness Coordinator.
Mike Roddy, Director of Golf.
Mike Triber, Controller.
Vivian Timian, the General Manager.
Leslie Van Huff, Executive Assistant.
And TJ's over there on the controls, so he can turn us all off. So thank you, TJ.
Mike Dunbar, President of the Saddlebrook Tennis Club Board of Directors.
Miles Langdahl, Vice President.
Okay, first order of business is approval of the revised minutes of the regular board meeting of September 29, 2024. Approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting December 19, 2024, and the special board meeting January 3, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Steve, I think, seconded. Steve seconded. Okay. President's report. So I felt it appropriate the first meeting of the year to start with our vision statement, mission statement, and values from 2025. So our vision statement, I will read, but then going forward, I'm not going to read the mission and values. You can all please read them. The vision statement, to continue as an outstanding 55-plus active adult community in scenic southern Arizona, offering unparalleled lifestyle, contemporary amenities, clubs, and activities that promote excellence and the well-being of its residents. Next slide. And our mission statement. Okay, so except for the scenic southern Arizona, the factors in our vision, mission, and values, we all must work to achieve. The beautiful mountains we see every day is God's gift to us. So some may argue, but I believe in 2024, we achieved our vision, mission, and values. Who is we? We is our residents. Last year, they elected, just as in the years past, board members that were residents who have been in Saddlebrook many years. The residents were also all residents who were active in the community. They served on committees, they've served on previous boards. They were residents that shared the value of the majority of our residents. They were members who care about our community and not just a single issue. We as the board listened and acted on the wishes of the majority of our residents. Perhaps these residents didn't make the most noise, as is often the case when the minority makes the most noise and the majority of not making the most noise makes the best decisions. The board listened and it worked in conjunction with management, acting as a team, not as adversaries. We as management and their staff who are dedicated to making our community the best it can be. Last week at the GM Coffee, a resident stood up and said she was out playing golf, stumbled on the fairway, and there was a maintenance worker over on the side that saw her, drove out there just to make sure she was okay. And that's a reflection on the employee, but it's also a reflection on the managers who hire the people who work for us in Saddlebrook. We, as the committee chairs and the committee members, we have 12 committees and 1 commission. This week we met with all committee chairs. All but 2 have been members of our community for several years. There were two new chairpersons. Both have been here a while, but they were new chairs. The committee reports to the board, and the board they interact with the board and with management, and they also interact with the counterparts in HOA2. They dedicate their time and their efforts to making our community as great as it can be. So who achieves our mission, vision, and values in Saddlebrook? It's our residents, it's our board, it's our management, and it's our committees, all working together. And I'm sure we'll have challenges in 2025 as we go forward, but I'm confident that this we group will all be successful again. So in January 2026, when we look back at our vision and our goals, we'll probably say we were successful again. So we also had appointments of the ex officio board members, Marty O'Shea and Mike Odell. I'm not going to read them all. Here's a list of all of our 2025 board liaisons and the committees and the commission. Forward. Oh, you did? Okay. We did go. The committee chairs and commission chairs. So with that, we'll turn it over to our GM, Vivian Timian.
How to turn on microphones, hopefully, by the end of the meeting here today. Okay. My name is Vivian Timian. I'm the general manager. I've got kind of a short report for you today. For golf, weather has been a challenge at the start of the year. We've done multiple shotgun starts due to the frost delays. Financially, from an annual and afternoon member standpoint, we've pretty much met the budget. We did have 5 demo days for January, even in the poor weather. But sales have been very good. I believe it's been 8,000 to 10,000 in hard goods as a result of the demo days, so things are looking well there. On the lease equipment, we're still waiting on the 3 fairway mowers and the events. He has a good kickoff to the events. The Super Bowl Scramble event, which is a 9-hole event, is already sold out, and we do expect the Sweetheart Scramble on February 16th to be filled as well, hopefully shortly. So golf is off to a great start. I think it'll be a great year for golf, and certainly next week is looking very possible as if the temperatures really do get into the 80s like they're predicting at this point. On F&B, financially, we've had a strong revenue start to the year. We are anticipating a $260,000 revenue for January, which well exceeds what we did in 2024. And I've got Kelly Evans in the audience today to talk about some of the things that they're trying they're implementing in food and beverage in order to bring the costs down and address some of the issues that we ran into in 2024. Kelly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kelly Evans, the Food and Beverage Director. So we've been trying a couple different tests in the Roadrunner Grill to not only reduce our linen cost, but also our paper supplies. So looking at high quality alternatives that don't substitute service and value, but allow us to cut some costs there without having to raise prices and bring it back on the residents. We have been reworking both the Roadrunner Grill and the Vistas Bar. So upstairs tonight, join us for burger night. You'll see 2 bartenders in 2 separate wells. So they'll both be able to make drinks at the same time, which should help us get drinks out faster to everybody. And then down in the Roadrunner Grill, we reorganized some new shelving, which allows us to pull the liquor and the glassware that we need quickly and efficiently to serve drinks faster down there as well. This is the first season as well that we have the additional seating in front of the fireplace in the Vistas, which has allowed us to maximize residents with or without a reservation on our busiest nights. So there is very minimal evenings where we've had to turn anybody away. We run a very short wait list if there is one, and that's allowing us to boost sales there as well. And then opposite Wednesday on the chef's table nights, we have been trying out some different buffets, which helps us reduce labor costs and, try something new and different with the food. So thank you, Vivian.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. Kelly wanted to go on early because she wants to get back to food and beverage. She's got a big night tonight. It's burger night, so thanks again for taking some time out of your schedule. I wanted to talk about the F&B event schedule, though, because she's got quite a few events here during the month of February, and so our food and beverage staff is going to be pretty busy. Pet Rescue on February 4th and 5th, that's actually a luncheon, where $5 of the $30 cost for lunch goes directly to Pet Rescue. We have a Cajun shrimp boil on Wednesday, February 12th with Who's Your Mama performing, so that ought to be a great event. Valentine's Day, Friday, February 14th, Manny Herrera will be on tap here, and the Left Coast Wine Dinner, that's actually a ticketed event scheduled for the end of February, but we've already sold 70 tickets, so it's looking like a very popular item for folks to want to attend. Of course, on the regular schedule, we've got Thursday night burger nights, Friday fish fry, and I wanted to just kind of remind everybody there's 3 different ways you can get your fish. You can get it fried, you can get it baked, and you can get it in a poor boy. So Friday is becoming really, really popular, almost rivaling the burger nights at this point. And Saturday, we still have the home-style specials with half-priced wine on any entree for Saturday. And then the first and third Wednesdays of the month, we, of course, do Chef's Table. So she's got quite a few things that her and her team are doing. I think they're going to have a successful February. I know January has been a very strong kickoff, so I'm very pleased on where F&B is headed these days. From an administration standpoint, we do have a turnover report. We have 152 employees currently, from January 2024 to December 2024, 152 total employees, about 75 of them full-time, 77 part-time. F&B back of the house had the highest turnover rate for the year at 59%. And that meant they have a total of 17 positions. 10 positions actually turned over in the back of the house. A lot of, we lost a few cooks and a couple of dishwashers, and that definitely had an impact on us at the beginning of the year. But we are fully staffed at this point, and things are looking very strong for the back of the house. So I'm happy to report that. Admin had the lowest turnover rate at 10%. I'm really pleased to, because I lost 1 position out of 10 total, I'm really pleased to say that golf course maintenance came in with a 13% turnover rate for last year, which is incredible from a golf course maintenance standpoint. The overall turnover rate for the association is about 32%. We filled several open positions that had been open in the departments because we couldn't find people. 2 in facilities maintenance, 3 in common area, and then of course the 1 in patrol is the one that maintains or monitors the golf course with the walkers in the before and after the golf times. So that's great. We have supplied a vendor listing to the board of directors. I am requesting that the board take a look at those vendor lists to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest, that you do not have any kind of influence or investment in any of the vendors that we're using. I think that you'll find that we have 3 types of vendors: preferred, sole proprietors, and then the contract ones. So there's 3 different listings there for the board. So,
Vivian, how does our turnover rate compare to other communities?
Food and beverage is always high. And so that's kind of a high number. The big problem that we have with our food and beverage from the front of the house situation, if you look at a typical food and beverage, I mean, go to a Denny's or even go to HOA2, you're going to find that the servers don't walk very far. It's a smaller restaurant. And when we talk about ours, I mean, they're constantly walking and moving and things like that. We've had people in the front of the house come in, and they've tried it for a couple of days, and they said, this really isn't for me, because they didn't realize how much they'd have to be walking and moving and stuff like that. It's a very physical, demanding job. So I would say that we're probably actually lower than most, but our food and beverage is where we really struggle because it's a younger group of people, and you can throw a rock and hit a restaurant in Tucson. So, there's ample opportunities for people to change jobs easily and move on to other positions. So, in the operations section, we have connected the outdoor television set at tennis to the Comcast courtesy account so that they can get the tennis channel down there without any cost to the association. We did have an electrical shutdown to repair the SES at the clubhouse on January 23rd. The SES is actually the service entrance for the electricity where it comes into the building. Had a problem with one of the blocks, and John was nice enough to come in at 10 o'clock at night and work with the electricians and make certain that everything was up and running. So that was last Thursday evening. For the Creative Arts and Wellness Center, this is the big one. We want to make certain that we invite everyone to the town hall meeting on February 12th at 2 p.m. at the Desert View Theater. The doors open at 1:30. Please come on down, because we're not only going to have John's going to be going over a few things, but the people that are really going to be presenting are the clubs and groups that are going to be using the space. And they're going to tell you why they need what they need and the reasoning behind the entire project, the purpose behind the project. So this is going to be a great proposal, and I think I'm expecting quite a few folks to show up, both from HOA1 and HOA2. We're going to be reviewing the drawings and proposed designs, and it's the opportunity for residents to provide input on the project. A lot of information, like I said, from the clubs and groups, and an overall impact of the project on Saddlebrook, because it's not only going to impact Saddlebrook 1, it's going to impact the entire community, as this is a center that both groups will use pretty frequently, I think. So that's it for me. So I believe I will go ahead and turn it over to Mike Triber to talk about the financials for December. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. All right, December financials. So we are in the middle of our annual financial statement audit. Just wanted to mention that. The auditors visited on January 8th. They were doing the interim field work. They will be coming back March 5th through 11th to do their major portion of their field work, and we should have our report by early April. So looking at December and 2024 year to date, so we ended the year with not a bad month for home resales. There were only 3 home resales in December versus 10.5 budgeted. We had 105 year to date versus 125 budgeted, so we were 20 worse than budget overall on home resales. Other general income came in very strong, $195,000 better than budget. The biggest portion of that is royalty income of $168,000, followed by interest income, which was better than budget by $27,000. And that's just in the operating. They were also better in the replacement reserve and capital improvement fund. Road spending, we had additional road work that the board had approved at $215,000. So we came in $153,000 worse than budget overall, and that was driven by that additional road work. It was on Ridgeview. In general and admin, basically we ended the year just right on budget at $6,000, just $6,000 over budget. So positive there. In the services, we were about $25,000 better than budget. That's mainly driven by labor, if you look across the departments there. In the amenities, we were $56,000 worse than budget, and the biggest piece of that is property and casualty insurance, which overall came in, it was $100,000 more than we had budgeted, and it was a $100,000 increase over the year before, which was unexpected, and it's not within our control. Looking at overall HOA, we came in at $52,000 worse than budget overall. Were it not for the road spending, or also if it were not for the additional property and casualty insurance, we would have come in better than budget. Golf revenues, very positive for the year. Annuals came in $112,000 better than budget. Now that was offset by dailies. And I think Mike will agree, I think that was really a budgeting issue. I think you guys budgeted aggressively going into 2024. And so that's why they were under budget on dailies, mainly. I mean, there's also weather. There's always that. But a big part of it was the budgeting. Golf shop net sales, $64,000 better than budget. Very positive. Overall, $114,000, almost $115,000 better than budget on total golf revenues. Golf course maintenance ended the year $78,000 better than budget. That was mostly labor. Golf operations came in about $29,000 worse than budget. And the biggest thing there is promotional costs. Golf shop cost of sales, it came in worse than budget on an absolute basis, but that's being driven by the sales volume. As a percentage of gross sales, they came in at 63% versus 64% budgeted. So very positive there. Bottom line, $124,000 better than budget on net income. A very good year for golf. Looking at food and beverage, they missed on the top line. They came in about $31,000 worse than budget overall. Other income is $15,000 worse. That's just driven by the service charge. Looking at the cost of sales, they came in right on budget. They're actually a little better than budget on an absolute basis, but they came in right on budget at 34%. Labor costs were worse than budget overall. They came in at 68% versus 67% budgeted. Other expenses, about $81,000 worse than budget. That's being driven mainly by variable expenses, which includes the washing and the linens and paper supplies and things of that nature. Followed by computer software licenses, entertainment, and also property and casualty insurance took a hit against food and beverage as well. Bottom line, F&B ended the year $101,000 worse than budget. And overall, total net income, we were $29,000 worse than budget overall. Questions? Yes, Joanne? Well, so in food and beverage, in food and beverage, I mean, their cost of sale, their labor costs did run high. As I said, it was 68%. They were close to, one of the big, the big thing, probably the biggest thing driving the negative 101,000 is their other expenses. Yeah, so and the things that I mentioned, you know. No, that's in cost of sales.
So overall, you were $29,000 worse than budget, but $152,000 of that was the roads that got pulled forward. So if we didn't pull the roads forward, you're $125,000 almost better than budget. So were it not for the roads, we would have been better than budget. Also, were it not for the huge increase in our property and casualty insurance, we would have been better than budget overall. Other questions on the P&L? Looking at our cash, so we ended the year, we've got a balance of $5 million overall in the operating funds and $5.5 million in the reserve funds, $10.5 million total. We're in a strong cash position at this moment in time. Questions on that? Now looking at the cash outflows, replacement reserve fund, common area maintenance, 3 exterior doors were purchased for the maintenance building. That was not budgeted previously, but it came in at $10,425. In golf course maintenance, the steel doors on the 3 golf course restrooms were replaced, so that's 6 doors total. And that came in at $2,850. I'm sorry, $20,850. Thank you. In the clubhouse, the South Agave entrance door was completed. They actually installed the actuator in December.
So that came in at a final cost of $22,799. It had been approved by the board at $24,206. The boiler expansion tank was replaced at the clubhouse. It was budgeted at $7,500. It came in at $73,87. And antennas, windscreens were purchased at a cost of $2,731. Questions?
You noticed, or you mentioned that there's $10 million. I see Bill Clarkin sitting in the audience. How much of that was interest earned on our cash?
Between the three funds?
Between all three funds.
Yeah, between the three funds, we had about, I believe, 140 overall in earnings. Does that sound right, Bill? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of better, worse than budget. I'm sorry. 345,000 across the three funds.
Thank you, Bill, and the
Thanks,
investment
Bill.
committee.
So total proposed spending for 2024, we had an original budget of 2.2. We came in really close. I mean, 2,224,000 budgeted, and we came in at 2,258,000. Looking at the capital improvement fund, we had final cash outflows at the Arts and Crafts and Fitness Center building. That's all planning. And I said December final. Well, it's final for December, but some of the spending is going to go into 2025. So it was budgeted at $250,000. We had cash outflows of $115,210. And bottom line, we had planned on spending $275,000 out of the capital improvement fund, and we spent $152,631. Questions? Thank you.
All right, we'll start with LC report. If you look at the totals, we have pretty much done the same number of permits as we did last year at this time in the fourth quarter. I don't need to read all that. However, are there any questions about permits issued? I would say it's half and half. This is our revenue from our permits issued, and again, pretty consistent with last year's quarter. I have a question. How do we issue 30 in 2023? How do we issue 30 violations, but we assessed for 46? I'm not quite sure how that happened. I have to talk to our secretary about that. But if you look at this quarter, we would give people a violation notice, and then they have 30 days to resolve that, and only 2 haven't been resolved. So that's pretty good, and it only ended up in 5 assessments being given to a resident. And some of those were driveways. And again, information line calls, pretty consistent from year to year. Again, this is what we do. Review and approve permits. Big thing is home inspections. As I sat here today, I just got another home inspection on my phone. So we're doing, although sales may be down, we're doing a heck of a lot of assessments. I'm not quite sure how that works. Constantly training new staff. We have 2 new people currently doing the communicator articles. I had done it for a few years, and it was time to hear a different voice. So now someone else has taken that mantle. We continually meet with HOA2, looking for common areas of interest and writing guidelines. And we've been invited by them to attend the recreation fair at Mountain View. So I'll be there from 8 to 11 a week from Saturday, doing that. I'd like to point out that we are currently short one ALC member. We had one leave the team. And so if anybody is interested, there are applications at the administration office, and we're always looking for fresh blood and new perspectives and interesting conversation. We don't always agree, but we love to discuss. Thank you. Any questions?
Next item on the agenda is the consent items. I think we'll just roll through them. I'm not going to approve them all. I'm not going to read them all. Okay, thank you all those people who are up there. Their names are up there that are volunteering to help our community. Do I have a motion to approve the items under the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda. Consent agenda.
And we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay.
John, why don't you kick it off and start talking about all the projects we've got going?
Hello, this is John Reed, Agave Dining, Golf Shop Interior Design. The Agave Dining, we're still waiting on some tables and chairs that we've ordered for the South Agave area. The vendors are telling me they're waiting on securing transportation for those items. And once they can confirm transportation, they'll give me a delivery date. Golf Shop Interior Design, I'm going to let Mike talk about that. I'm not going to steal his thunder. I think we'll hear more about that later on today. Creative Arts and Wellness Shop, Workshop, Wood Shop A&E. Well, the Wood Shop is kind of on hold right now. That's phase 2. The Creative Arts and Wellness Center, we had a meeting today, just this morning. Went very well, talking with all the groups about the things that they need and things like that, trying to dial some things in as far as the FF&E and some detail locations of electrical and things like that. All the groups were very pleased. I was very pleased about how that turned out. But everything's going well. I think we're on the right track. And of course, we got the town hall coming up on the 12th. The construction drawings are moving forward. Those of you that were in the last meeting, I think it was, where we were asked to maximize the 8,000 square feet that the county approved without a parking variance. And we're going to become very, very close to that, 8,000 square feet with our revisions of the drawings. Drainage engineering services, we're still on track for the first phase of that to come from the civil engineering mid-February. That's what their projected schedule was for the drainage projects. Portable floor scrubber, we're still waiting on it for it to be delivered. However, the company has provided a loaner piece of equipment, as the exact piece of equipment for a loaner, until we get our actual piece of equipment in. And the loaner is working as well as we expected it would. And we'll have that until we get our piece of equipment in as well. I think the rest is up to Mike.
Okay, lease. Got You guys heard the no new information. Mike Phillips is next week attending the Golf Course Superintendent's Education Conference in San Diego, and Toro will be there. So that is certainly on his list to talk to the folks from Toro to see if we can get some kind of idea what we're looking at from a timeline for those last 3 fairway mowers that we're waiting on. Golf course improvements, so all the on-course improvements were completed. Our in-play areas are being utilized by the golfers. He has still work to do on the nursery on Tucson 6, and they've been starting to do some work over there this month, and that'll continue through the spring with the goal of planting the new grass there early this summer.
Okay, on the completed projects, we have the South Agave door has been completed. New nice metal door was put in. Useful life, we're estimating around 20 years. The air handlers for 13 and 14, those are above the library. The board approved $44,000. They came in at $35,200. The condenser water pumps, this was a big project that was done during the October timeframe. Took them a while to dial everything in. It was originally budgeted at $50,000, but did come in at $30,265. The bunker sand replacement project is complete. Originally, we had $30,000 budgeted. It came in at $26,258. The truss tail cap installation, this was out of the operations budget and was completed late into the year in 2024. It was budgeted at $33,166 and actually came in at $32,002. And then we had several emergency replacement items. One of them was the boiler tank expansion. We do anticipate that boiler tank will last us at least 15 years. The exterior doors on the maintenance buildings, another 20 years, along with the steel doors for the golf shop restrooms. We are anticipating about 20 years on those as well. So that closes out all of the completed projects for the month of December. Where are we at? What's next? Okay, and now I'd like to turn it over to Bree. She's going to talk about all the equipment ideas that they have for the fitness center this year.
Hello, everyone. This is Bree Dieter, fitness coordinator. So we are going to be looking at treadmill replacements. We currently have 2 of our Matrix treadmills that we've had for quite some time. You might recall back in 2023, we replaced 3 of them, and we swapped those out, and so now it's time to get the rest of them out. So we're going to be looking at the Pre-Core series, the upgraded Matrix Performance Plus series, and then also the upgraded Life Fitness Integrity Plus, which is what we do have currently, with the exception that these are the new and improved models. So looking at the features right off the bat, all of them have the capability to be hooked up to the coax cable, which is going to allow you to have access to the television. I know that's something that's really important for a lot of the residents, especially with the screen sizes. So I know the Matrix and the Life Fitness have actually updated their screens on these models for this year. So they're actually going to be bigger and have a lot more components to them. So just bigger and better. And that's something that's also really important. The Life Fitness treadmills, they are going to offer a little bit more of an expansive workout program selection that includes anything that's preset to the customizable workouts that you can program onto there. And I included the step-up height just because that is something that I try to take into consideration. So we do want to make sure that we have a good balance of equipment in the fitness center. So we do have the 2 Woodway treadmills that I know are pretty popular. They can be a little bit more aggressive for maybe people that can't get up on a treadmill. So these ones actually have the lowest step-up height, so they tend to be a little bit more safer. Looking at the warranty, so the Matrix does offer a little bit better warranty when it comes to that drive motor. Pre-Core, not as impressive, but with the Life Fitness, I know that they stand by their products. They are made here in the USA. There's about 4 or 5 different manufacturing plants around the US, so everything is made right in here. And they're also currently ranked #1 in commercial fitness. So anytime you go to, I know Planet Fitness is exclusively Life Fitness equipment. And I believe even Choose Fitness is now switching over to them. So widely popular, widely praised. But also the vending company that we use to purchase the equipment is also who we contact for any tech support or any repairs that we might need, warranty questions. We have a great working relationship with them. So again, they stand by their product as well. And we've worked with them in the past 4 years actually. So we have a really good standing relationship with them. If we would need anything, they would take care of it for us. So real quick, so it was projected that the budget for the 2 treadmills was going to be right at about $20,000. Now that was based off of the numbers that I had from 2023 when we purchased the previous 3. Now because of all of the new upgrades that they've made, and also with the cost of the materials that go into those LED screens, all of the components are more expensive. And you see that with cell phones, tablets, et cetera, et cetera. So it did raise the cost of all of the treadmills a little bit. The Life Fitness treadmills, it actually only raised the cost by $3,000. And then the total of the 123, that comes in, that's included the freight, installation, and the removal of the other 2 treadmills. So any questions? Nope. We'll let you drop. Oh, you.
Okay, can we have a motion? Can I get a motion for the purchase?
I move to approve the purchase of 2 Life Fitness Integrity Plus treadmills at a total cost of $26,123.14. Funds to come from the Replacement Reserve Fund in accordance with the Saddlebrook One procurement policy.
Second.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? I have a couple of questions. The 2 that we're replacing, what was on the replacement reserve? Were they scheduled to be replaced this year, 2025?
Yes.
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 And I guess this may be more of a question for Vivian and Mike. I know we're continually reviewing the replacement reserve to get fair market values, and I think she kind of addressed why it's 30% higher than the budget was because of the new screens and LEDs, et cetera. I guess just reassurance that we're still actively reviewing and making sure that the replacement reserves, okay.
I had a quick question, not so much about this exactly, but what other things are potentially changing from the accountability workout plans, the computerized where residents can compete with each other? And these collect data, right?
Yes.
So people can track there.
Yeah, and that's another bonus of the Life Fitness products is so all of the current equipment that we have that's Life Fitness, it's all tied to a cloud called Halo, which I can access from my computer. So all of the data that's recorded onto there, it comes straight to me. And I can also do stuff like software updates and certain things like that, request repair. So yes, you can get all of that from these pieces of equipment.
So I know that you indicated these came up on the replacement reserve to be replaced this year. The reason we're replacing them is because are we having service issues with them?
Yeah, actually the 2 in question that we're replacing, the one has not had TV capability for quite some time. We were able to swap out the console and make it a functioning unit, but it doesn't have television access, which has been quite an issue. And then the other one just recently this week decided to completely lose its functionality. So it's another case of the console dying. And we're looking at seeing, how quickly we can get these in to remedy that problem, since treadmills are one of our most popular pieces of equipment. So yeah, so the ones that we have, yeah, they're definitely ready to go. Yeah, and the ones that we have currently are the Matrix. They are the older version of the Matrixes. They just don't seem to last as long, which is why a lot of commercial gyms are making the change over to Life Fitness, Cybex, all these bigger made in the USA brands.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the audience, residents? Okay, no questions. All those in favor of the purchase, signify aye. Those opposed? Okay, done.
Yeah, we're ready to turn it over to Mike Roddy and his team to talk about the golf shop refresh project.
Okay.
Jane and I are going to tag team this one. The entire staff's been working hard on this, the entire golf staff. Molly's in the audience. The operations team as well has made a big contribution to this presentation and this project. But I'm going to let Jane kind of kick it off and get us started.
Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon to all. Thank you for the opportunity to present something we're very excited about in our golf operations team. So just moving on to the first slide, we're referring to this as the golf shop refresh. We are using most of the area that is still there. It's not a remodel per se, but an upgrade and update. The golf shop is the hub of the dynamic, popular, and growing golf operation at Saddlebrook 1. We are the starting point for well over 82,000 rounds. As a matter of fact, we were 31 rounds shy of 84,000 this past year. So we've got some foot traffic in there. We're the source of over $3.5 million in annual revenues. Again, this year it was $3,583,717. Annual retail sales is well over 400,000. That's a relatively small space. This year it was $454,960. So shout out to the team and the merchandise team. Just a great job done with that. It includes over 175,000 in practice, lessons, and clinic revenue as well. So very busy space down there. We are often one of the first places that potential new homeowners, renters, and guests visit within the community. We are the face. A space that hasn't had any significant improvements other than a carpet replacement in the past 2 decades. And we are a space that is, while it is adequate as far as square footage, is certainly in need of a different energy and look to better match the energy and the activity that we've got coming out of there. So as we go through the refresh, the strengths of our golf shop as it stands, it's adequate square footage for our merchandise and our team. There are good access points as far as entry and exit. There are some sources of natural light. We do have the windows that are facing those gorgeous mountains of ours. And there's lots of perimeter wall space. In the weakness side, it's very dark in the pro shop. Dated finishes as far as the millwork, the carpet, the window coverings, the wall color. It's just tired. I'll just say it's tired. It's extremely dated in the lighting areas. Very poor traffic flow, which is tough for the team to try and get to people and help them out. Tough for the team behind the counter to see and access folks as they walk in the door. Limited visibility, and then limited merchandise display. Everything that we have that is soft goods, clothing, has to be hung. And that in the middle of the season like we are now can get very, very crowded in there. Not that conducive to try and wander through and go through the racks. So those are the reasons behind our desire to freshen it up a little bit. As far as our design focus, it was identified as a need back in 2022 It was placed into the RRF in 2023, and I think this is when the Roadrunner was undergoing its upgrade. The work has been ongoing since 2023. We used the same Within Studios, the same design firm as the Roadrunner grill, and our intent is to make it a relatively easy flow from one place into the next, and we're quite different looking when you walk out of the Roadrunner and into the shop, or vice versa. We wanted to make sure that the design flowed and matched well with the Roadrunner grill. We focused on lightening the area, brightening, and modernizing. Heavy accent on modernizing there, it's time. We'll use the existing square footage and minimize structural and unnecessary floor plan changes, so it truly does fall under the refresh category. It'll improve the look and the feel, and in a big way for residents and for the team, the flow of the floor plan. And you'll see the display behind us here, but it does bring the elements, if you will, of the golf course inside, the color palette, the materials, and the finishes. So I'll turn it over to Mike with the processes to date.
Tough act to follow, for sure. Give it a shot. The process to date, like Jane said, we began working with Within Studios back in 2023. They were on site back then, took photos, measurements, started to have some design discussions. They changed designers in the middle of that. That kind of slowed things down for us a little bit. But we had several Zoom and in-person meetings. We focused on the design, the needs, the goals, the budget. They presented several design approaches, overall approaches or themes, I guess would probably be the best way to describe it, to both the staff and representatives from the golf committee, subcommittee that we formed. We approved or selected one of those approaches, and then the process kind of went from there. We did have an in-person meeting with the design team, staff, as well as that subcommittee to review and select the final color palette, the surfaces, and the finishes in last summer in June of 2024. Then we received the final design from Within Studios in September of last year, late September. And then the project team, myself, Jane, John Reed, and his team started to break out the elements. What could we do in-house? What would we need a contractor for? And then started working on getting quotes, estimates, and trying to put it all together. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of elements, and try to come up with a cohesive plan. We took some advice from the finance committee and put a display board up in the golf shop to show the community what we were proposing. We have had that on display since December. I wrote an article for the January Communicator just kind of describing the project and letting the community know what we were proposing for our refresh of the golf shop in 2025. So our focus, a little bit about what the design elements and the focus in the project, I have them kind of numbered here, and there's a floor plan of the golf shop. Number one, you notice, you can see the door to the Roadrunner grill, which is the south wall. The door to the restrooms into the scoring room, that's the north wall. So the offices are kind of to the top, and you can see the double doors out to the stairs there. So we are proposing to relocate the check-in counter to improve traffic flow, provide the staff a quick access to the back of the house, rental clubs, regripping, things like that. Make the counter the focal point of the golf shop. But through design and finishes, the design team has proposed some woodworking that goes behind the counter and comes all the way out onto the ceiling to really make sure that people know that that's the focal point when they come into the shop. We want to reduce the height and size of that desk. Jane mentioned lack of visibility. There's some people on the staff, you almost can't even see them when they're behind that counter, it's so big. And then they can't see the residents when they come in. So that affects our service levels. And and we want to improve our storage, and obviously lighting. The lighting is a significant need for us from a modernization standpoint. Number two, and you can see the number two areas are kind of throughout the golf shop. This is the new built-in millwork. We want to go with a lighter wood. The current millwork that's in the golf shop is extremely dark, and we want to lighten it up through lighter woodwork. We talked about wanting to get away from having to hang everything. Everything is on a hanger, which means the staff is unboxing that, opening it up, steaming it, placing it on a hanger. So there's a lot of labor involved from getting that from a delivery to its readiness to be on the golf shop floor. So our thought is not everything has to be on a hanger. We can start to display things folded, some things on hangers and some things folded, a nice combination, which will reduce some of our labor costs. We also want to be able to store items on the floor as well. So some of this millwork gives us that opportunity to have back stock readily available. And we want to have the ability to adjust this millwork. So all the shelving can be changed and adjusted. And that's one of the things that I've learned in the time that I've been involved in the golf shop is it's really important for us to change it. You guys, the golfers come in and look at the golf shop day after day, 2, 3, 4 days a week, and it kind of gets old. And so if we move stuff around, change where it's displayed, we can really give it a freshened look, and this new millwork would give us that ability. We also like to add some logo-based artwork. I look at the Roadrunner grill, there's the beautiful wood mountains with the lights, something along those lines to tie into the community. And also a dedicated area for club, bag, and shoes. Right now, we kind of have shoes in several areas. Clubs are kind of scattered a little bit. Bags are wherever we can find a spot for them. We'd like to have a dedicated area for all of those items, which is would be in that number 4 area on the bottom. We want to make sure we have an open retail space, which again gives us the ability to have flexibility, changeability. Combination of, we have a lot of nice four-way hanging, what's the word for those things? Displays. We think we can probably refinish some of them and reuse them and not buy all new. Also looking at adding new hang folds and things like that will give us, as well as nesting tables, to give us that change up for how we display our soft goods. And we also want to shrink that support column. So John Reed has been up in that ceiling in the golf shop, believe it or not. And so he knows that column is not as big as it appears. It's been furred out, and so we can shrink it and not make it as big and shrink the impact of that column that's in the middle of the shop. That's kind of number 3 right there. And then I kind of got ahead of myself, but the dedicated area for the clubs, the bags, and the shoes, a nice leather bench where people can sit and try on shoes, add some lighting, some accent lighting in that area, and just really just kind of upgrade the look and feel of the shopping experience in the golf shop. So how do we pull this off? How do we refresh the golf shop and still operate and still function? So that was kind of one of the challenges we've been dealing with for the last few months is, can we do it and how do we do it? And I think we have a good plan. We've kind of broken it out into 5 phases. The first phase would be kind of like the plant introductory phase, which would be provided you approve the project today, that would start February 1st or start tomorrow and run through July. And that would be engage the millwork contractor, get that process started, start to get that millwork production underway, order all of our supplies and our materials, pin down the contractor schedules, what weeks they're going to be available, what weeks they're in the time frames that we've given them, schedules, and Saddlebrook One is going to do the electrical work, so install the new lighting and all that, and so some of that behind the scenes stuff up in the ceiling, that work can begin even before anything else. So that gives us plenty of time to kind of get the process started. make sure everything's here when we do want to execute phase 2 and phase 3. So you can kind of see that dotted red line that runs across the golf shop at an angle there. So we are proposing phase 2, everything to the right of that red line, that part of the golf shop would initially be closed. Saddlebrook One staff would build a temporary wall across the golf shop, and behind that wall, work would be happening while we're still operating on this side of the wall. That's August 4th through September 7th. Install the temporary wall, complete the items on the north side, which includes the check-in counter, the new built-ins, the lighting, the flooring, and we're also proposing to replace all the carpet in the back offices, paint those walls so that work can get done at that time. And then we would move September 8th and forward on phase 3. So we would open phase 2, start to utilize that new side of the that refreshed side of the golf shop while we complete the same processes in the south end of this golf shop. And so we would kind of flip-flop. We would have some access issues. We wouldn't be able to use the same doors and all that kind of stuff, but I think for those 5-6 weeks, I think we can get through that relatively easy. This is a time of year when really golf's kind of at its lowest level. And then that runs right into phase 4, which is shutdown week, which is the week when the clubhouse is closed, all 3 golf courses are closed. So that would give us a week where we can kind of finalize everything, put all of our new displays in their locations and stock the shop. Cleaning, all that kind of stuff would happen. And then phase 5 would be reopening, refreshed with the first golf course from overseeding on October 13th. So 5 distinct phases for the project. All right, so let's start talking about some of the elements that we're looking at. Lighting, we've talked about how dated our current lighting is. We want to replace our existing track lighting with modern, sleek, adjustable, dimmable lights. Update a lot of the can lights to lights that we can directionally adjust and place light where we want it to accentuate the items in the shop. Add pendant lighting, so there will be new pendant lighting over the check-in counter as well as in the shoe area. Really a needed design element, I think, that needs to be added to the shop. We looked at 2 local lighting distributors, got pricing from them, and like I said, Saddlebrook One would be wiring and installing the lighting, but we would order it from the distributors. And the pricing we received very, very similar, but we didn't get a cost for shipping. So when we kind of roll this up, we're going to add a little bit to that total so that we account for that shipping costs. This is the most expensive piece of the project, the millwork. So this is the built-in woodwork. We had 2 local contractors bid on the millwork as well as an out-of-state company that specializes in commercial retail shops like we have. Thank goodness they were the most expensive, so we won't be considering them, but they do provide us some of our floor displays, and we would like to use them for some of the additional floor displays that we're looking at. But new built-in cabinetry, check-in counter with design elements that we talked about, wall-mounted displays, and then the shoe and club displays, which will have built-in millwork elements to them as well. The prices we got include installation. Once we engage with the millwork contractor, they will provide us with shop drawings that Mr. Reed, I'm going to rely on him to look at those very closely and make sure that the measurements are correct and all that stuff is correct so that they can go in the correct spot in the golf shop, and nothing will get produced until we sign off on those shop drawings. And the lower priced millwork contractor has agreed to a phased installation. So we can call them and say, okay, we're ready for you to come in and do the phase 2 area, and they'll install that, and then they'll go away. and then we'll call them back and say, hey, we're ready for phase 3, and they'll come back a second time on site and do the second installation. So that was important that they were on board with that type of installation timeline. And there's the pricing on the millwork. So it ranged from $112,000 to $95,000. Then some of the other elements, painting, we did get some initial quotes. John really would like to wait until we have slat wall on almost all of our walls in the golf shop. And a lot of the walls will be covered again by millwork, so they won't require painting, but we do think there's gonna be some areas that require some repair and touch up and stuff like that. So we don't really have a definitive quote for painting because there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, but we're very comfortable with the estimate of $4,000 for the painting, which includes the ceiling as well. So we lighten the ceiling and paint it the same color as the walls. And then fixtures, we talked about adding some different types of fixtures to the shop. Hang fold, which is a combination of hanging and folded garments in the same displays. Possibly repurposing some of the four-ways, adding a new bench, the artwork, possibly a new TV. And so the estimated cost for those items is $23,000. All right, flooring. We did look at 2 local contractors, both for the carpet and the LVT. So it's a combination in the floor plan. Right in front of the check-in counter is LVT tile. And it really designed to draw your eye, to draw your attention to that front counter, make that the focal point in the golf shop, and the rest of the golf shop and the back offices is carpet. We are recommending that we use the same carpet as this right here in the back offices, the same carpet that's in admin. So we'll have one carpet in the golf shop retail area and then a separate carpet in the back office. We are recommending carpet tiles because that really helps us with that phased installation. So they can come in and install the carpet on one half of the shop, wait, and then come back and do the other half when we're ready. And I think it gives us the ability to replace what we need in the future and not have to replace the entire carpet when some of it's still in good shape. And the prices we got from that, you can see very competitive. Aztec Flooring was the contractor that did the upstairs flooring last year in the clubhouse. Inside Edge, where IFS, I think, is the low bidder on this project. And then we also like to get rid of our metal blinds that we currently have in the golf shop that obviously are a little outdated. We love the look that we have in the Roadrunner grill, and we love the automation that it provides. We want to be able to add light, add natural light, and so having blinds that we can adjust when we're able to and open them up and bring that sunlight in, we want to do that. So that's what this is. 2 local contractors provided quotes. The one contractor did the Roadrunner grill, and the other contractor did the vistas and everything upstairs. So we've had experience with both of them. And their quotes were very competitive as well. So right about, a little under $9,000 for the window coverings. As far as the windows themselves, that was definitely something we're still looking at. Those windows are single pane windows. There's 7 large single pane windows in the golf shop. John is still kind of discussing our options with the window contractor manufacturer. And so right now that's not part of our current presentation. Those windows actually lie in the clubhouse, the clubhouse portion of the RRF. We might still come back to you at some point with the replacement of those windows. Whether or not it can be timed with this project kind of remains to be seen, but that's not currently in the project right now. But it's definitely something I think John is definitely interested in replacing at some time in the near future. Miscellaneous elements. So these are the items and supplies we need to do the things we're going to do internally. the baseboard. So John has committed the operations staff to replace the baseboards, do all the electrical rewiring and upgrades as needed. The switches need to be moved. They're currently behind the current check-in counter. That's going to be covered by millwork, so we're going to move those to behind the new check-in counter. Believe it or not, when you come into the golf shop and in the morning, like you're opening it for the first time, where you come in and where the alarm panel is located, there's no light switch. So you have to do that in the dark, and you have to walk across the golf shop essentially in the dark without any light. So we'd like to add a light switch by that door so that the staff can turn the light on and, you know, have some light to see what they're doing. So that's something that's included. The temporary walls, we're going to have some demo. There's 2 small walls on the north wall that we're going to remove. And so there'll be some dumpster costs and things like that. One of the things we discovered back in Molly's office, I don't know if anybody's been back in the way back there. That carpet is probably the original carpet from like the 80s. So they built shelving over top of the carpet. So I'm pretty sure whenever they've done the carpet replacement before, they came in there and looked at it and said, we're just going to skip this room. So we do need to take all that shelving out so we can replace that carpet and get new carpet back there. So we are going to require new shelving, and I think changing the way we're displaying our clothing gives us the ability to adjust that shelving. We don't need as much of it, and make some adjustments there. So that we're not saying take it all out and replace it with the same. We're just going to adjust how we store some of those items in the back. And so we're estimating those costs total at $13,000. So here's all the numbers kind of put together, lighting, the millwork, the painting, the fixtures, the window coverings, the flooring, the miscellaneous items. Those total up to 169, almost 170,000. We've added a 5% contingency just in case we need it, for a total of 178, 164. And the project currently sits in the budget at 184.1.
Okay, could I have a motion?
I move to allow management to proceed with the 2025 golf shop refresh at a cost of $178,164, including a 5% contingency. Funds to come from the replacement reserve fund in accordance with Saddlebrook One's procurement policy.
Have a second?
I second.
Okay, any board discussion or questions?
I have one question. You mentioned the carpet. Are you talking about using the same color as what we have here?
Just in the back, like in the office area. So just in the back hallway and the offices.
Okay, what would be the color in the actual pro shop?
It's this green.
I don't know if you can see this, but the image is just here.
So it is, okay.
Okay, and then the tile up front kind of accents off.
Okay.
That. So a little bit more modern than what's
Right.
on there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Such a beautiful facility, Molly. I'm sure you'll be able to double your sales, right? Any other questions?
I have a couple questions, and does this include, you guys worked within design? Is that cost included in this, or was that?
That was already approved back in '23.
Yeah.
So that's not included in the execution of the project.
Sure, and I don't recall what it was. This is kind of interesting. It's not good data or anything, but there are some people that I've heard from that are golfers, so they don't just have an opinion from somewhere, they're golfers, that the golf shop looks like a golf shop, and that's the way they look. And what's wrong with, Yeah,
If I may?
sure. Have
it
you
looks like
heard
a-
this, or?
No, well, yeah, from some.
Okay.
But it looks like a golf shop from 1980. I mean, it.
Oh, you don't have to convince me.
No, So
that.
not a flippant response, just true. You know, it does have a need to, I think, come up a little bit. I mean, I think one of the really important aspects of the refresh, like I said, these are the first, things that people see when they walk in. If they're golfers, if they're new looking to buy, and they haven't come through from downstairs, it just looks a little bit dated, to put it gently. And truly a vast difference when you walk from the pro shop to the grill.
Yeah.
So it's just, to us, it feels like it's not a flow. It's like it's kind of a forgotten, aspect, I think. So is it sufficient? Sure, square footage wise. Is it efficient? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I think there's the efficiency part besides just the decor. So, let's see. Have you seen some of these? I have to be honest with you, like I haven't seen other golf shop in a long time. Is this a trend out there, or are people, still
You mean update? No,
Yeah.
well, they're often updated much more frequently. I mean, our staff, our superintendent staff and our pro staff went up to Arizona Biltmore. It's an entirely different look. I mean, as you travel around to different courses, you do tend to notice. But I would say, I don't know an industry standard of years, but I would think every 10 or 15 years there's a rather significant update. Just as times change, right? Just like any retail space.
Sure. Okay. So you have heard that just from a few golfers, then that they like the way it is. So I just thought that was interesting. And also, something that I am struggling with is, the other thing that potential buyers come to see, and everybody wants to walk into the clubhouse, right? And that, I'm sure every realtor takes them there, as well as the golf shop. And currently, it's has a mix of a lot of things, and we're doing things very piecemeal for that. And, ideally, it's the kind of bill, we've done these things piecemeal, but ideally you'd want the clubhouse to kind of just be redone versus, pottery, photos, and then, what do we have? Some modern art now and new carpet, but the tile and things like that. So, I am in favor of doing things all at once. But I just wanted to express that I'm a little concerned about, the actual clubhouse, which is going to need a lot of work. And we are going to be doing the new building, so, you can't do everything at the same time. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah, I think it's long overdue. And if you look at the amount of revenue that golf generates for this community, and you're talking about $180,000, I mean, I think it is money well spent. And as you indicated, the new members or new residents, potential residents that come here and they see the Roadrunners redone, they go into a golf shop, looks modern. I'm thinking that's going to convey a pretty good message to somebody who's thinking about buying. So, I mean, I just, long overdue and money well spent, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got a question, actually for John Reed. If we did those windows in the golf shop so it wasn't just the one pane, if you will, it was updated, what do you think that would cost, just ballpark?
It'd be upwards about probably $3,500 per window.
Per window?
Yeah.
Per window,
Yeah.
okay.
For the 7 windows or 8? 7, yeah.
So it's $7,500 for all 7?
No, per window.
Per window, okay.
That's installed, removed and installed.
Okay. And then the other comment I would just make, if you get a chance, is to go up and look at the ranch. Now, their pro shop is very well done, in my opinion, and I've been in many pro shops around the country, so that's pretty impressive. So that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the audience, residents?
Hello? Greg Poling, Unit 2, Lot 54. I wouldn't say that 185 grand is not a lot of money as a non-golfer. And I'd like to know what the ROI is on this 185,000 investment, if there is one, if there's been one done.
I don't have an ROI on that, but I can tell you that the retail sales in the golf shop bring in over $100,000 in profit for this community every year. So,
how's that going to improve with 185,000?
I don't know that it will, to be honest with you. I think what we're doing is updating a space that is necessary, is a hub of activity for the community, and is something that we want to keep updated for future residents down the line. So that's kind of the approach that we've taken, and I think it's a necessary improvement.
I think it'll improve employee morale, having a better place to go to work every day. Mike mentioned some efficiencies within without having to take everything out and iron it. They can keep it folded and sell it folded instead of the taking it off a hanger and then steaming another one, putting it up there. So I think there's efficiencies. I'm not sure that it could be broken down to, okay, it's 5 years and we got an ROI on it. But employee morale, also from a golfer's perspective, you're walking into a nice, bright, clean facility. It's not something we can measure as far as what's the value of that. To me, it's valuable. I'm a golfer. To maybe somebody who's not a resident, maybe not so much, I don't know. But it is something that's very difficult to put a price on or an ROI on. But I think it's well overdue. And again, you have to remember they're generating over $3 million every year for this community.
Just to also respond, an ROI is return on investment. And in the business world, like if you buy a stock or you buy a real property, you can calculate over a spreadsheet how much return you're making as a percentage of your investment. But I think it's a little bit backwards in HOA accounting in the sense that we have a reserve fund and there is a duty to maintain the facilities. So a lot of, this is sort of a maintenance and replenishment of these facilities haven't been improved for quite a period of time, and there is a duty to replenish those and make them fresh and new for the next group of people that are coming in. And it does improve home values as well. So it's not a perfect match for an ROI in terms of an investment model, but there is an ROI, and there are different accounting nuances when you're dealing with an HOA.
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2. No longer a golfer, I used to be. I provided a bunch of documentation, including with the HOA2 golf shop, which has a number of features that the Saddlebrook 1 golf shop doesn't. So some of my questions are, why is no disclosure of the design fees and fully burdened internal cost on this project? Why is there no disclosure of estimated useful life on the improvements? And if they are not being charged to Golf Shop, why not? 15 years, an additional $12,000 of expenses. There's an item for $23,000 with one bid and another item with two bids. For their procurement policy, items $15,000 above require a minimum of 3 bids. Why aren't there 3 bids? Why is there no disclosure of the current amount in fixed assets and how much is going to have to be written off on this project? Why is there no disclosure of our competitors like Mountain View and Preserve and what their revenues are compared to us? In 2023, this project was $43,000. Now it's $179,000. Why did it increase? Why is there not more emphasis on cross-selling with food and beverage, like HOA2 is doing in the pictures that I sent you? My main concern as a non-golfer is that after allocating overhead, I'm paying $806 a year, or over 20 years, $16,000 for the golf amenity. If I was at Stone Canyon, which is a premier private club, the HOA is separate. So the golfers are paying for all the golf course, all the golf shop, and all the reserves. I don't think that's fair for the non-golfers.
Thank you, Harry. I think regarding the design, I think that was approved in 2023. Sorry. That was approved in 2023, so that's why it's not part of the cost here. Mike, what's the useful life going to be? Probably anywhere from 15 to 25 years?
Yeah, I think we'll get probably the same amount of time. I mean, the carpet won't last that long. We'll have to replace that sooner than 20 years. But I think what we want to do is set ourselves up so that we can update in the future. Maybe we don't have to wait 20 years, you know? That would be also, I think, something we need to think about.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Larry Butterfield, Unit 4, Lot 37. This comment is mostly for the board and future considerations. I noticed the millwork cost was like almost $100,000. If we had a wood shop, that would be just costing material. So just future consideration of the future things that will be happening.
Okay, thank you.
Ed Larson, Unit 18, number 94. The millwork cost struck me also. I wasn't even aware of this golf shop remodel until today. It's more than half the cost. Were any alternatives looked at to maybe reduce that cost? I mean, the woodwork looks really nice and it's very fancy, but I understand it's the counter, the woodwork going overhead, the shelving, yet it's more than half the cost of the project. That really seems high. Another thing that strikes me is if you have, it looks like tile in front of the counter transitioning to carpet, that means there's going to be an edge. That's a tripping hazard, and we have an elderly population. You would not want to have any kind of an edge there, carpet to tile. I guarantee you there'll be people tripping and stumbling on that. So how about considering maybe lowering the cost of the millwork? Something more modern, perhaps. Wood in general is viewed as older architecture. There are other brighter woods, maybe wood and metal, that might lower the cost, but I don't have experience in that. But more than half the cost, just millwork, seems unbalanced. Thank you.
Mike, did you look at other alternatives besides wood?
We didn't look at other alternatives besides wood.
Have you seen any other pro shops that have anything other than the wood?
Most of the displays that I've seen in golf shops that we visited recently are kind of wood based. It's lighter woods. It's more modern looking wood. we were trying to maximize the wall space and give us that flexibility, of folded and hung. And so to do that really on that wall space, we need built-in, essentially cabinetry to display items that way.
The wood, you can customize the space.
I'm sorry?
The wood, you can customize the space.
Yeah, and I think, that's, this is custom work, I think, and John could probably add to this. I mean, we could ask for a box, order a display case that comes in a box that we put up, but it's not going to really match what we're trying to do in the shop. So that's really why I think the costs are where they are.
And Mike's actually 100% correct. It's custom made to fit that space, so it doesn't look like an afterthought. And also the hardwood, if you use extra hardwood, the cost would be twice that cost. And I think the piece we're missing here, the reason why it's the majority of the cost of the project in general, if we hired a contractor to come and do the electrical, the drywall, the demolition, it would be a fraction of the cost of the actual, because they would charge us, probably $20,000 or a day, or not a day, but they'd charge us a lot more money if we had a contractor come and do the work that the facilities team, which is already budgeted, doing that work. It looks big because it's a majority of the cost, but if you add that to an overall project and you had a contractor doing the remainder of it, it wouldn't look so out of balance, but the cost would still be there.
Right. Good point.
John, can you address the tripping hazard?
Yes, when we walked to the project with several flooring companies, they said, yeah, we got to make a transition here to make sure we got some type of a million, they call it, to make the transition from the vinyl to the carpet matches, so there is no tripping hazard there. And they make what is called a Sluter metal that kind of borders the laminate to the carpet. They make that transition a smooth transition.
So the tripping should not be an issue.
No.
I had a comment that just occurred to me. It is completely awesome for this community to have such a strong golf program, and the fact that there is revenue. Out there, a lot of people think it's self-sufficient and none of our dues go to golf. And I just want to, clear that up. We're not over a profit, especially with the reserve fund and what we spend on the golf course. So I think that's where you're hearing some of that. This gentleman, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember your name, brought up the woodworking piece of it. And, we have put off the woodworking building for a few years. And as I said, the agave situation and the clubhouse situation, I'm wondering when we'll get to that, to be honest with you. And I think that really matters, doing something like that so piecemeal. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. It was very good. And any other questions? Okay, then can we have a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed, nay.
You opposed?
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't matter. I oppose, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, can we move forward? Do we need to take a break?
She'll be back.
Okay. All right, good afternoon. Just a reminder of who I am. I'm Mike Dunbar. I'm the president of the Saddlebrook Tennis Club Board of Directors. I want to say thank you for allowing us to be here today. Miles Langdahl, my vice president. with me. And I just first of all want to say on behalf of the 412 members of the tennis club, as well as all the residents of HOA 1 and HOA 2, we are very thankful for the board for the beautiful facility that we have and for the upkeep of that facility, the committee members that work tirelessly to make sure that all of our nets are in new condition and the windscreens are up every time the wind blows, and on and on. It's just a wonderful place to live, and I love being here. Having said that, I'm going to go over these revisions with you. Before I do, I just want to give you some background. So, full disclosure and transparency, about a year ago, our club leadership went through some very challenging times, and we were without a board of directors for a very short period of time, for a 3 months last year, due to reasons I won't get into, but several of us stepped up to fill those roles, and I feel like we're starting to get back to get our feet back on the ground again with our membership and with everything that we're doing. Now, if you look closely at these rules, you'll see that this set of rules here was adopted and accepted by the tennis club membership back in April 26th of 2023. So you can see that some time has passed, and that is the reason for that. And all that background I just gave you is the reason why it's taken so long for us to bring it before the board, okay? So our bylaws committee and our rules committee both were intact during that time in 2024, so they worked very tirelessly on these rules. They didn't just whip them up at the last minute for whatever reason. I just want to give that background before I go through them. Okay, so I think if I go to this slide right here, okay, here we go. So any mix of players, these are definitions just to help out with the rest of the document. So these are really not major changes. We made all combinations, any mix of players. We put that in there because we have pop tennis now. And also we have instances where we have activities where under the old rules, it was gender specific on the courts. And now we've included all genders. So men and women can play together and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's really just a clerical type of fix there on the definition. We had to go in and define what a guest is, because there were members, non-members, who were using that term as for themselves when they're not really a guest. So a guest is a non-resident friend or relative of a member, owner, associate member, or renter who's visiting HOA 1 or 2 at his or her personal invitation. So again, these are just definitions to help us with the rest of the document. We removed that statement at the end there regarding holidays, because the rest of that paragraph right there basically tells you what proper attire is. So if you want to go out there with a Bugs Bunny suit, as long as you've got proper tennis shoes on, that's not a problem, if that makes sense. All right, next slide. Okay, authorized use of the courts. So that line right there, if the court is not in use, you may enter, but do not disrupt play if entering an adjacent court. We had a lot of instances where we had people that would be antsy about getting onto their court, and so they would buzz the gate and then they'd go in there while people are still playing a match. It's kind of disruptive. It's a tennis etiquette type of thing, but sometimes people need to be re-educated about tennis etiquette, so that's what that's in there for. It's very disruptive to whoever's out there trying to hit a ball and somebody walks on the court. When you go down to the next area there, this is all about including pop tennis and the fact that we have ball machines on certain courts at certain times. It keeps people from reserving a ball machine during prime time when there's adjacent courts where there's USTA or organized play being played on those courts. Because the reason is that when you're using a ball machine, balls are going to go flying out, and when they're playing an actual sanctioned match, it's disruptive to that match. So we aren't saying that they can't use the ball machine, they just can't use it when those circumstances are present. If there's nobody on that court next to them, they can use it all they want. Okay? And we moved the pop ball machine from Mountain View over to Desert View, so that's why that's line through there. Everybody with me so far? Okay. All right. Here we go. Pets. All right, so we removed the fact that you can't bring pets into the tennis center. That's in the HOA rules anyway, so no pets are allowed on the tennis courts or in the areas where food is being served. Basically is the reason why we took out in the tennis center. Restricted use of the tennis courts. Use of the courts is restricted to only tennis and pop tennis. That pretty much says it all. We don't need to put bicycling, pickleball, skateboarding, blah, 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 and the rest of that stuff in there. So that's all clerical, just to define that paragraph.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Vivian, does the issue regarding the pet change, does that impact the HOA as far as being contradictory to what we have?
About pets inside the tennis center?
It says no pets are allowed. Before it said in the tennis center, and they've deleted that.
Right, because they basically just opened it up. They just don't want any pets in there. And, you know, I mean, obviously emotional support dogs and sightseeing, sight,
Right,
yeah, are allowed.
are
So,
allowed.
Yeah,
That is correct.
yeah, I think that's just a clarification on
Okay,
there.
so
And really, the coordinators are in there all the time when the office is open, so they don't have any issues with any pets or anything like that being in there, so it's not really an issue.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Let's see. Okay, so we started, we added one new term for memberships, and that would be 4 types now instead of 3 types. And we have full, associate, which were before, and now we have social and monthly. All right? And we'll go over those one at a time. So full members pay the full annual dues and are entitled to all the benefits and activities offered by the STC, by the Saddlebrook Tennis Club. So the club is marked out there and we put STC. For first-time members joining after August 1st, that's all about prorated dues. We don't do prorated dues anymore, so we removed that. Associate members, no change there. Social. Used to say non-playing, but now it's social. So social members pay 1/2 of the annual dues and support the STC and attend STC social events. So there's the difference between a social membership and a competitive membership. People that are competitive members, and they indicate this when they join, when they put their membership, they put down whether they want the membership for social reasons or for competitive. And that comes into play later, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But non-playing social members may not participate in organized play or play in STC events, and that's the reason for the competitive choice or the social choice. And they can change that at any time during the year. If they decide, I've had enough social tennis, I want to start playing more competitively, maybe starting in June or something, I'd like to start playing people of my own level and so forth, rather than just for the social aspect of it. They can change their membership with the coordinators immediately, and then they can partake of organized play and the other STC events we have where there's ratings involved and that kind of thing.
Where are associate members?
Associate members?
Yeah.
It's right there, full members. Then associate, I don't know why yours doesn't have it, mine does.
It's right there.
Where?
Right up top.
Right after full
No,
members, mine says.
I know, it
mine-
says full associate, social, and monthly, and then you proceed to define full members, you define social, then you add a new category.
I think your document that you have right there
Yeah,
is not the same as the document I'm holding in my hand. The document that's on that slide right there is not the same as mine.
oh,
If you look at, I can show you.
Okay,
but Mine has, right below full members there,
yeah,
it does not say social. It says associate members pay
Okay.
1/2 the annual.
That-
So you're
that-
just not seeing it, but it's not there's no change to that.
okay,
So it's just not on that slide.
got it.
But there's, like we said at the beginning, there's 4 types: full, associate, social,
And monthly, got it.
monthly. Okay? So I'm sorry about that slide not being right, but, okay. And then the monthly. Monthly members are able to play organized play and play in the SDC events. And they are not eligible to vote at membership meetings because they're not a full member of the club. Therefore, they're not allowed to vote. But they can attend membership meetings, and they can talk at membership meetings, and they can get up at the microphone and say their 2 minutes worth or whatever they want to say, but they cannot vote for anything that is voted upon by the membership. And all active classification of membership, we got rid of members there, may attend SCC meetings and eligible to vote at membership meetings. And that's just clerical right there on that change. Okay? Everyone good? And I can move on? All right. Okay. Non-member resident use. Okay, so I'm going to read this whole paragraph because it's kind of confusing. During prime time. So what we consider prime time at the tennis club is the first 6 hours of play for the day, depending on the time of year, right? So right now, our organized play starts at 8 a.m. In the summertime, it starts at 7 a.m. because it's warmer and the sun's out, right? So that's the only difference. It's still the first 6 hours, regardless of what time of year it is.
7 days a week?
7 days a week, okay? Well, no, prime time is not on Saturdays or Sundays. Okay? Right? On Saturday and Sunday? Oh, yeah, it's 7 days a week, yeah. Okay. All right, so during prime time hours, 3 courts are available for use by non-member residents. This is important, okay? This means that anyone in this community that likes to play tennis or wants to try to play tennis, every single day of the week, there's 3 courts during prime time that they can use just by being a member of Saddlebrook, okay?
For that whole 6-hour period, there'll always be
That's
3?
correct.
Okay.
There's 3 courts that are earmarked, okay? Right. So the coordinators will do that. They'll call the coordinators and they'll say, I'd like to reserve one of the non-member courts for tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And the coordinators will say, okay, fine, I have this court for you right here, and they'll put them on that court, and they'll be assigned that court, okay? This is the day before. So if let's say today's Monday, and I decide with some non-member friends of mine that, let's pretend I'm a non-member and that I'm just a resident of Saddlebrook, and I call the coordinator office over here at the SDC on Monday before they close, and I say, hi Landon, I would like to have several of my friends and I who are non-members play some doubles tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Do you have a court for me? He'll say, yes, I have a court for you. That's reserved for non-members. I'll assign it to you right now, and then no one can take it away from you. That make sense? Okay? So there's 3 courts like that every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that any resident of this community can use to play tennis.
You're indicating, however, here that they have to do that 3 days in advance, not the day before.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, 3 days, which is good, right? Instead of the last minute, because if they wait till the last minute, sometimes they won't get in. So yeah, that's the reason we have that rule. Yes, sir. 3
days.
3 days. Right.
3 courts.
Right, each 2-hour session, right. Yeah.
Are they
Okay.
always the same court?
Say it again? Did you have
Are
a
the
question?
3 courts that are available, do they rotate, or are they always the same 3 courts?
No, they'd be rotating, so it'd be dependent upon what the members have reserved. They always earmark some 3 courts to not be reserved by members. But members can't reserve 3 days in advance. They can only reserve, if they don't call the coordinators, they can only reserve the day before after 12, or 1 day before, after 12:15, after the office closes. Then they can use the website and go on and they can reserve a court. Okay, that's how the members reserve their courts. But if it's organized play, which we have on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the women, and Tuesdays and Thursdays for men, those courts are already assigned, notwithstanding the 3 that are left open for non-members. Because you have to remember, we have more courts than just the ones here at the facility, right? We have all the courts in both HOA 1 and 2, right? So there's Desert View and Mountain View and Preserve. So that gives us a lot of leeway, and it gives us a way to manage that.
Can I ask a question? Are all the member courts during prime time earmarked for organized play? In other words, you have a block of courts for your prime time, and those are blocked off for the STC. Are all of those courts used for organized play?
Not necessarily, but the courts at the STC normally are.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
They normally play organized play at the STC. That's usually how they do it. Because we have quite a lot of members that do that program. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea. I know you have 3 courts during that for all your 6 hours that are outside the scope of the STC. Those
That's
are
correct.
for residents.
That's correct.
But for the remainder of the courts, the STC, let's call them the STC courts that you have a claim to, okay? Are those, during that 6-hour period, are those fully used for organized play? Or
No, they're used for a combination of organized play and other groups that I get together with my friends and I don't want to play organized play. And I say, hey, let's go play tomorrow at such and such a time.
And are all your friends STC members?
Yes.
And would it be a violation of the rules
Yes.
if you asked
If I asked a non-member, yes, it would. We're going to get to that.
Okay.
That's coming up later on.
Okay.
That's a good question, but it's
Thank
coming
you.
up later on. But you have to remember now, so three days in advance. So if by the time the coordinators get ready to do the court assignments for that next day, right? If no non-members have reserved those courts, then they're going to give those courts to the members because no one's reserved it.
We should probably wait for questions till he finishes his presentation.
Yeah, it might go
Sorry.
faster.
Sorry.
But I understand your question. I'm just trying to clarify for her. Okay, so where are we at here? Non-member play? Okay. So we removed that part about exceptions during the hours of prime time during the 5 days of organized play. Any same day, open court is open for STC members and non-members to play together because there's a problem, and the problem we're going to get to is coming up in the last page that I go to, and I'll explain what that means and why the reason that came out of there. Okay, so next we're going to non-member play. So non-member players, a non-member resident may experience organized play once each year if sponsored by a member. So if I have a member of this community that's a friend of mine and they want to play one time a year with me, okay, then I can ask them to play with me one time a year. All right, that's the exception. All right, the sponsoring member is responsible for the conduct of the non-member versus guest, right? We crossed out guest. Non-member player determining the appropriate level of play and assessing and arranging the match. Okay? And then we've crossed out guests and changed it to non-member players do not have priority over STC members during prime time.
I have a question about the number of courts that we have. I know it's HOA 2 and HOA 1. HOA 1's courts are of, I believe, better quality than the other courts. So my concern is, do you keep track of whether members, put it this way, have there been complaints by non-members that they can't get on the good courts at HOA 1?
Not to my knowledge. Now, they can't get on during prime time, except for the 3.
No, I'm talking about prime time.
Yeah. No, not to my knowledge. I haven't heard anybody from the STC office tell me about any complaints by any member of the
Yeah,
this
your
community.
coordinator is a member, right?
All the coordinators are members. They're employed by HOA 1, but they all are members of the tennis club, yes.
And they have the ability to assign whoever they want to what court?
Well, okay, technically, yes, they have the ability to do that. However, there are rules that they have to follow.
What are the rules?
The rules regarding the assignment of courts, it's a first come, first served basis. So whoever, they have timestamps on the emails that are sent to them, right, by the membership or by non-members of this community. And they have a timestamp on that email when it came into the STC office computer. And so they go by that timestamp and they assign the courts according to the timestamp.
But don't members have a priority in terms of days in advance to order the court?
Only for, you're talking about prime time? Are you
Yes.
talking about organized?
Always talking about prime time.
Are you talking about organized play, or are you talking about non-organized play, like that? They just they
Well, if
can't.
it's organized play, the non-member's not going to be doing that, right?
That's correct.
So we're talking about unorganized play, disorganized play.
Yeah, it's a timestamp. So, like I said, they have the same rules that they have to apply to whether it's a
The
member
point
or
I'm
not.
getting at is I'm concerned about discrimination against people who are not members of your club being unable to play on the nice courts simply by the fact that the coordinator says, hey,
Okay,
I'm going to favor my members.
Let's let Michael finish his presentation, and then after we have a motion, then we can discuss
Yeah.
and ask
Okay.
questions.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, non-member play. So a non-member resident may experience organized play once each year, sponsored by a member. The sponsoring member is responsible for the conduct of the non-member player, determining the appropriate level of play and assisting in arranging the match. Non-member players do not have priority over SDC members. Nobody has priority. All right. Allowable court combinations. There we go. So courts with more than four players. We had to change this. We had to remove this because we were having instances where there was people that were scheduling 6 and 7 players on a single court and rotating them through. And it was disruptive to the members on the court next to them because they had to sit there and wait, and they were talking, and so on and so forth. So we had it brought down to where it just says, organized play courts are restricted, and this is organized play. Organized play courts are restricted to no more than 4 players per court, all right? So 4 people on a court at a time. And then courts with up to 6 players are allowed on one court, so up to 6 players, excluding OP, organized play, to allow for 6 rotation of players. So we are allowing them to have up to 6 players, but no more than that, just to reduce the disturbance to the court next to them. All right. Okay, next slide. What about that? Was it on the other one? Yeah, there it is. If a member requests a court reservation during prime time, all players must be members, all right? And the player's full name submitted to the tennis coordinator or entered into STARS. STARS is the software program that we use to reserve the courts over there at the tennis club. All right, if a non-member requests a court reservation during prime time, all players must be non-members and the player's full name submitted to the tennis coordinator or entered into STARS. This is the change we made, and this is the reason why we made it, and this is from the question that you had earlier. We have had instances, not less than one, but we've had lots of instances about members whose spouses were not members. And in order to save themselves a membership fee, they were bypassing the system by reserving a court and then allowing their spouse to play, who's a non-member, on that court during prime time. There was quite an issue with it last year. We had a big issue with it. So in order to circumvent that from happening, that's why this paragraph has been changed the way it is. So you're supposed to play member and member during prime time. Non-members play with non-members during prime time to keep it divided. That way, the integrity of the system isn't at risk, and also so that anyone who's a non-member in this community doesn't lose out and get discriminated against because someone who's a member took their spot on a non-member court. That's the explanation for that paragraph right there. Do you have anything to add, Miles? Okay. All right, that's the conclusion of our presentation. I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Yeah, can we have a motion for the rules change for the STC?
I move to approve the proposed revisions to the STC rules as presented.
Have a second? Okay, any discussion by the board? Questions?
Well, you skipped over the last one, which was non-members playing drop-in during prime time are limited to 6 sessions only.
I'm sorry. You're
first of
right.
all,
I did miss that one. Okay.
yeah, first of all, why don't you explain what drop-in means?
I'm going to turn this over to Miles, my vice president.
Well, drop-in is basically associated with, in tennis, there's drop-in where we have, the courts are open for rotation, 5 or 6 people, depending on, you want to come in and play for an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, it doesn't matter. You don't have to spend the 2 hours and drop-in. Okay. Yeah, and the one thing about it is it's just a time of the day that we've decided that you don't have to sign up. We just usually put it in paper saying drop in for pop from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or drop in for pop from 10 to 12. And so they can come in and we'll have paddles for them, non-members, members, and it just gives them the ability to play, learn about the sport. So instead of having to go out and buy their equipment, come on the court and going, well, I didn't like that, so I don't want to play anymore. So it just gives members and non-members another opportunity to play at a different time with different people. That's what it's for.
Thank you, Miles. And it helps grow our membership, actually, because when members invite their non-member friends to come to drop-in, it's either tennis or pop drop-in, it's either one, they might get interested in joining the club, and we might build our membership that way, by word of mouth. You never know. The reason we limit them to 6 sessions is we don't want people taking advantage of us, right? If somebody's a non-member and they say, I don't know, why should I pay for a membership at the club? I'll just come to drop-in every 2-3 times a week, get my tennis in, and I won't ever have to pay a membership. So that's why we limit them to 6 times, 6 sessions.
So a drop-in is somebody who just wants to play tennis?
Yeah, or pop, tennis or pop, and we advertise these drop-in times.
So your coordinator is going to restrict them to 6 times a year?
That's what the rule says. Prime time only.
Nonetheless, it's a restriction on a member.
It's a restriction.
Just want to drop in and
it's
play.
It's a restriction because why should that person who's not paying a membership fee circumvent the system and be able to play in prime time as a non-member anytime they want?
But he's paying a fee for...
He's not paying a fee.
Yeah, he built the tennis courts. If he's a member of the community, he's a resident.
That is true. But back to the original statement is that we have a tennis club for a reason. And the reason is that people pay that membership so that they can play during those prime times. If he wants to play, he can certainly play on the non-member courts, those 3 courts that are available every day of the week. But if he's going to come to an organized drop-in that we're doing as a club, these are organized by the club. That's a benefit of being a member of the club, is that you can come to these drop-ins. But we've opened it to non-members for 6 times so that they can get a taste for it, see if they like it, and see if they want to do it more. And if they do, then hopefully they'll join the club.
So you're saying the drop-in is only because of the club promoting this drop-in?
Yes, it's organized by and run by the club.
If a person didn't want to have anything to do with the club, but wanted to, quote, drop in and play some tennis outside of organized time.
Oh, outside of organized time? Yeah, we have a lot of those. We have them from 2 to 4. So I guess to clarify what you're saying, I'm going to give you an example. So Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 2 o'clock from 2 to 4, we have what we call pop drop-in. So it's pop tennis, and anybody can come to it, okay? It's not during prime time. Therefore, that non-member you're talking about, they could come all 3 days a week for the whole year and never pay us a dime.
But on prime time, he can't do it.
Not during
Only
prime
6
time.
times.
Not during prime time, unless they come to use a non-member court. But again, we're talking about drop-in. We're not talking
Okay,
about.
moving back up to the other change you want to make just above this.
Yeah.
Where you're saying a member can't play with a non-member.
Yes.
You're trying to promote membership to your club by doing this rule change.
No, that's not true. What we're trying to do.
You're trying to prevent somebody from gaming the system so that he doesn't have to join your club.
That is correct, because we've had members
It's the same
complain.
thing, only said backwards.
Okay, but we have members complain to us about that happening. Members that are paying members, when they see a spouse of a member using that to bring their spouse onto the court during prime time.
But those people paid a community service fee to build those courts,
I
and they have a
understand that.
right to use those courts. And your club, my concern is, first of all, thank you for doing this, because it's so convoluted, I would not want to have to deal with it. But I'm concerned for the people who you think are gaming the system, but to me, have paid a community service fee to be able to use tennis whenever they feel like it.
They do. They have 3 courts they can use them. There's 3 courts every day of the week that they can use.
At any time.
So they're not being discriminated against because they have 3 courts assigned.
But they can't play with a member.
That's right. They can't play with a member. Not during prime time. And
I
that's
think
the reason for that.
That's Len's point, that these courts, I relate this to golf. It'd be, Mike Grotti says that on Wednesday when they have men's league, they fill up so many tee sheet slots, and we've only say the men's league only fill up until 9 o'clock.
Right.
So at 9:15, I'm a member of the men's club, but I want to go play with Steve because he's not a member, and Mike Roddy's going to tell me I can't go out and play because Steve's not a member. And I'm saying, well, I'm a member, but he's not a member. He's going to say, no, I can't go out and play. That doesn't make sense to me because Mike, the residents own the golf course. The men's club does not own the golf club course, just like the STC does not own the tennis courts.
Right.
So you're restricting a resident's use of a court to basically try to enhance your membership is the way I see it.
I can understand your point of view, but it's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is because we have complaints by members who are paying members, and they pay their HOA fees just like the other person did, but on top of that, they're paying a membership fee to the club so that they have the opportunity to play during the prime time hours of the court usage, which is in the first 6 hours of the day. So they're paying an extra amount than this non-member who's, sure, they paid their HOA fees and they helped build the courts, okay? But they're paying $120 a year on top of that for the right to come play during prime time on their courts. We're not discriminating against the non-members because they have 3 courts available to them. And if they want to go play on those courts, that's perfectly fine. But if they try to take a person that's a non-member and the member reserves that court and they bring their spouse who's a non-member, then the people that have paid money to use that court are going to be complaining to us, which is what is happening.
But I think you're
restricting a member from playing with a non-member on one of the 3 courts that are open to non-members.
You can look at it that way, but the way we look at it is we're trying to enforce the system so that people don't bypass it and then they don't get a membership in the club.
You still are going to, you still might have people who are non-members complaining that they can't play because they can't play with somebody who's a member. So you're going to have complaints
Well,
either
they
way.
can, once a year. And after prime time. And after prime time. They can still play. If they want to come play after prime time, they can play with a non-member all they want. They've got, what? From 2 o'clock on, so it's 8 hours of the day that they can come out there and play with anybody they want.
Okay, so if you're allowed to discriminate against members and non-members not playing, then could the men's league for golf do the exact same thing and tell Jane, you can't allow non-members of the SMGA and regular members that are not SMGA but are residents of the community that they can't have a 9 o'clock tee time because they're not playing with a resident?
I'm sorry.
A member?
To me, that's apples and oranges. I mean, do you have a prime time for golf? Mike? Is there a prime time for golf? We do, yeah. And what's the prime time for golf? What does that mean? Till noon?
Yeah, it depends what time of year.
Okay. And anybody that's a non-member can play during that time? In this instance that he's talking about?
We reserve tee times for the leagues in advance, but if they don't use them all, then we offer them to anybody.
Sure.
The same thing with us with courts.
Yeah.
Okay, the courts are open, they're open to play.
Yeah.
But you can't reserve it.
No, you can't reserve them, but if they're open, you can go out there and play, sure.
But I can get a tee time with a member and a non-member.
If it's an open court, can a non-member, not reserved, just a member and a non-member are walking by?
Absolutely. If you're driving by
court
and you see an empty
during
court, you
prime
say to
time?
your buddy, hey, let's go hit some tennis balls. There's nothing to stop you from doing that.
Okay, so it's only the reservation.
It's the reservation of that court during prime time. That's correct.
Well, congratulations, you've drafted some of the most complicated rules I've ever seen in my life.
I didn't do it. It was the rules committee. It wasn't me.
Did the membership of the STC approve these rules?
That is correct. On April 26, 2022.
And how large is the STC?
412 members.
So 412, this was put before?
It had to be a majority.
Yes,
It has to be a majority of the people present at the membership meeting on April 26th, which it was. We had a quorum, and we had the sufficient numbers to pass that. Everyone was invited to the meeting, okay, via email and well in advance of that meeting. And they could even call in their vote if they wanted to.
And this rule applies to courts on both HOA 1 and HOA 2?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't discriminate towards.
If I pick up the phone and call, how do you know that I'm a Saddlebrook resident?
We trust you, you're gonna tell us the truth.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Don't you have to give your name?
No, if you're gonna reserve a court, you do.
If you're going to reserve a court, yeah. They'll ask for your name. But we're not the resident police. We're not going to call HOA 1 and 2 and say, hey, does this person live here? If they want to use the court, they can use the court. We assume that they're a member of this community, so.
I'll have a question. I think it's probably been asked a little bit, and I apologize.
That's all right.
That I had to get up. So I'm trying to figure out how this, and with my fellow board members, how this is different than, what you pay for golf, or if you do this or you do that. You can't play golf if you're having a league game, or anybody can play golf while you're having like a tournament. I don't know how it works.
So for golf, there's a Chelsea system that you get tee times. So for the men's league that plays on Wednesday, everybody submits who wants to play on that Wednesday, and I don't know if it's Molly or Jane, they will set the tee times for those people who have opted to play, and let's say it's 8 a.m. through 9:30, that there are members that are scheduled to play. But then from 9:30 on, anybody can get a tee time and play. So the difference is that I can play with anybody at 9:30. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tennis is saying you can play at 9:30 if you're not playing with a tennis member. If all your people that you want to play with are non-members, you can play with them. Or if all of the people are members, you can play with them. But if you have two people who are members and two people that are non-members, you can't play.
During the prime time.
Which is
Or for reserving it during prime time.
Which is Monday through Sunday, first 6 hours of the day.
which is substantial, I think.
And can I just add, the tennis club has sort of, what's the word, owned the scheduling of the courts for the dawn of time. They've been doing this. This is not something new, but the tennis club funds a court, it's a position that they assign matches. Organized play is not just going with your friends. You sign up for organized play, and the system matches you with similar players, and you play.
Not the system, the coordinators. That's what they get paid to do, yes.
So what I'm paying for, if I want to be a tennis player, I pay $120, and I can just sign up on a list, and the coordinator in the club will match me up with other tennis players, and I'm
of likability, yes.
Of likability.
Correct.
So that's a service that they're providing
That's correct.
to the members, and
Yes.
they need a certain amount of courts to do that.
Correct.
And I just want to
Yeah.
understand.
And we've never had a problem where, I wouldn't say never, but I will say very rarely do we have a problem where we don't have enough courts for everybody during prime time.
Do you ever have residents, non-member people complaining to you that they can't get on a court?
Never have heard anyone that's a non-member complain about not being able to get on a court.
There have been a couple incidents that I've heard of, but the coordinator will work with them trying to get into their court in a different time slot if it's booked. Because they didn't get in the time slot that they did with their email, they were late with their email. That's usually what happens is they call too late or they get the email in too late for that time slot.
And the coordinator does a service for the non-residents in that they put them on a court. They accommodate the non-members by handling their requests and assigning them a court.
That is correct, yes.
And the courts are assigned without favor. Sometimes the courts are in HOA 1 and sometimes the courts are in HOA 2. There's not a preference system for.
No, there's no preferential treatment of anything. What happens sometimes though is that, let's say you have a group of players that on a regular basis want to play Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, right? And they've got 3 courts, okay? So that means they've got 12 people, right? And they want to play near each other because they're going to rotate. So they're going to say play one set on this court, and they're going to move to that court, and the winner's going to move over here, and the loser's going to go this way. And so they kind of try to do that as much as possible. So having that in mind, if it doesn't matter to someone else who's like needs 1 court, they might put you at the Preserve, or they might put you over at Mountain View or Desert View or somewhere where it doesn't matter to you, okay? Now, back to the gentleman's, Len's question earlier about his opinion about the court's conditions, okay? That's his opinion, okay? I play tennis 5 days a week here, okay? I don't care if I play at the Preserve, I don't care if I play at the SDC, I don't care if I play at Mountain View, I don't care if I play at Desert View, okay? To me, all the courts are in decent enough condition except for the ones at Mountain View that need obviously a lot of work that we're trying to get HOA 2 to fix for us, but that's another issue for another day. I don't mind playing at any court that's here, okay? I think that they're all well kept and I think they're being taken care of, and so I don't have like a favorite court or anything like that, or think that the courts here at 1 are better than the Preserve or better over there. I don't have that opinion, and I'm pretty much an expert because I play 5 days a week. So
Has HOA 2 seen these rules, proposed rule change, and approved them?
Not yet.
You're going to us
we're
first.
We're going to you first, right?
Thanks,
and then we're going to go see them. So
I understand the problem you're trying to solve. I guess my question is, how widespread is it, or is it just an irritant that these people that might do what you say they do to defeat your rules or defeat your having them join your club?
Len,
how widespread is it?
I don't have any numbers for you, Len, but I can tell you this. If it keeps happening and people keep getting away with it, our membership is just going to go down the tank
So
because
to me-
people are just going to quit paying when they see other people get away with this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just detrimental to our club. It's detrimental to the morale of our club, okay? It's just something that we need to nip in the bud now. That's the reason.
Sounds like more of a club problem. You're concerned that somebody's going to complain that, John has got his wife and he's not paying for his wife's membership. We're looking at it from the standpoint that John's wife could come to us and say, I want to play and I can't play with my husband because he's a member. I paid for these courts. Why aren't I able to play them?
Well, again, they can play together, and they can play during prime time if there's a court available. They just can't reserve one. That's all. They just can't reserve one. But if there's a court available, they can surely go play on it. It's.
So that's my problem with the rule change that they have.
I understand.
Ready for a vote?
Any other discussion? Questions?
Yeah, it was already motioned a long time ago. No, it was motioned and passed a long time ago.
David Newwater, Unit 3. I'm just curious. The fee is $120? Mm-hmm. What do you do with the money?
So, unlike some other clubs in this community, us being a nonprofit, every single dollar that we collect for dues goes to paying the coordinators, paying for all the activities that we do, all the socials that we do, the Christmas parties, all of it. We use all of our money every year. We don't have a cash reserve.
Mm-hmm. So the HOA doesn't pay for the
The HOA pays nothing.
No.
We pay.
That's absolutely.
I'm sorry. When it comes to running, but my point is that they don't pay for the coordinators. The club pays for the coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
They cut the check, but then we reimburse the HOA for that.
And if the prime time, let's say it starts at 8 o'clock and ends at 2, after 2 o'clock, any empty court is open to anybody in Saddlebrook.
That is correct. Yeah, you can still reserve them on the online system after prime time.
Okay. Do you have to do it 3 days in advance?
Day before.
Day of.
Yeah, or day
If
of.
it's
I can wake
available.
up in the morning and go, hey, I want to play this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Let's see if there's a court. And I'll go on the website and see what's open, and then I'll reserve it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And David, just for clarification, $32,000 is spent on the coordinators every year. That's what we spent last year. Well, that's what the tennis club spent last year.
Yeah, that's what we spent.
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2. I guess 2 points of clarification. If these people are calling in, why aren't you getting their member number? And don't they need a member card to go through the RFID to get into the courts?
That's a good question. They are, you're talking about non-members that call in? Because the members, is this on? The members that call in, we have them in the database, right, for the tennis club, because they're a member. So all their information's in there, okay? If they're a non-member and just a member of this community, no, we don't do anything. But yeah, they have to have, if they want to play at HOA 1, they got to have a card to get into the gate, because there's no way for them to get in there without that card.
Okay, it just wasn't clear. The second is a suggestion. On a complicated subject like this, where you involve two, Saddlebrook 1 and 2 boards, my suggestion would be in the future, why don't you have a work session or a subcommittee of the board and make all the rules consistent, like with the golf? Just a suggestion.
Okay, time for a vote then. All those in favor of the rule changes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Nay.
I said aye.
3-3. 3-3, so my understanding is it's not a majority, so it doesn't pass. Is that correct?
He chose. He gets to choose then. He's the tiebreaker.
My vote was part of the 3 nay. So isn't it if it's not, it has to have a majority to pass? Okay. So in which case, the rule change is, as issued is not going to pass. The vote was 3-3. You need a majority to pass. It's only 6. One is non-voting. He's non-voting. So there are 6 of us.
You don't get to pass.
I have to change something for you to pass it, otherwise.
You can renew it next.
You can, I think the majority of the response that was negative was that the issue of not allowing member and non-member to play.
So what this board is telling me is if I get the members to agree to take that part out and say a member can play with a non-member anytime they want, you're going to pass this rule. Is that what I'm hearing?
We can't say, but based on the feedback that you got, I believe that is the case. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Can I ask
So before I go, as you can tell, this took 2 years to get done, and it's still not done. But I gave the bylaws to the HOA quite some time ago that were changed as well, and those haven't been discussed or voted on or anything by the board. So I gave Leslie a copy of the old bylaws along with a data sheet that shows the changes made by the tennis club and a copy of the new bylaws as they look that need to be voted on by this board at some point. So I hope that I can hear back from the board at some point about that, getting that done as well.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I see.
More item, Mr. ALC?
Actually, we have 3 more items. Buckle up.
Go for it, John.
Okay, we're going to be talking about 3 different things. Driveway coatings, we're going to be talking about exterior EV charging stations, and exterior lighting. First, we'll talk about the driveway guidelines. We want to make some language adjustments here, and this is pretty basic. Our rationale for these changes is our community is aging, and our driveways are in desperate need of repair. And we're working on that, and we want to find a more cost-effective measure for people to repair their driveways. We know bricks and pavers are costly. We know that we already require a permit to do it, but we don't want to call out elimination of certain types. PebbleTech in the current guidelines is currently restricted and are aggregate. Now, the reason they were, I can't tell you.
Oh, I want to know. That's crazy.
I have no idea. We looked at that. It made no sense to us, and we've had people talking about those. PebbleTech is actually a pool coating. People really don't use it. I don't know why they were there. And we've been working with HOA 2 as they allow aggregate driveways. And the reason aggregate driveways weren't allowed, I believe, was the little pebbles come loose and it's hard on tires. That's what I've been told. So here's what we're proposing. And you can read all of this. And we just want to strike the PebbleTech and aggregate from our current guidelines. And then we had a thing in there that stripes of pattern designs are prohibited. Well, since it says it must be evenly applied over the entire coated material, that seemed redundant to us. No. And this is what they would look like now. Do you want me to go back to what I have stricken?
No.
And there it is.
Okay, can I have a motion on this change?
I move to approve the proposed revision regarding driveway coatings to the ALC guidelines as presented.
Any board discussion? Any resident discussion?
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2. I'll try in my 2 minutes to give all my comments once, so I don't have to come back 3 times.
Okay.
The first question, is there a 30-day response period on this for the residents to give comments? Because I didn't see it in the resolution. Last month, I forwarded 16 items that Saddlebrook 2 was implementing, but I don't see where Saddlebrook 1 is implementing, and there were a bunch of them that I thought we should implement, but I don't know whether they're already in there or not in there. Here's a picture of my light, which is one of the original lights that's on many of the ropes in homes. And I saw the thing, and I think people are going to be confused because on our original lights, there's nothing on top that blocks the light from going up. So if you're going to do this, why don't you clarify to people that all the people that have these original lights are now going to have to put something on top so the light doesn't shine up.
When we get to that section, I'll talk about the lighting.
Okay. And how are you going to enforce this? Is it going to wait for people to make complaints? Or are you going to go around and say, there's 100 bad lights, we'll go around and look at them and have everybody consistent? Because my concern is, if I go to the preserve, the rule enforcement is a lot more consistent and the curb appeal is a lot better. The last thing is a safety issue. It's the number on the side of the house. Currently, those aren't lighted. So if we have a dark sky, what do the police and fire and wildfire people, how do they find your house?
I'll address the lighting issue at the lighting time.
I don't believe there was an issue regarding the driveways here, was there?
I didn't hear it.
Okay, so there were no issues regarding the driveway that he brought up?
One
Sir?
more. Go ahead.
Hi, Ed Larson, Unit 18, number 94. I'm one of the homeowners in desperate need of driveway repair. So I got a couple of questions. I've got a poor coating of some kind of gray on my driveway from day one, and I'd like to just sandblast that off to bear the plain cement. Do I need a permit to seal coat, clear coat with cement sealer?
Yes, you would, because we want to know what you're going to do.
Okay.
We see somebody out there who is coating. Okay. We don't know what color or what they're putting on. So yes, we'd want a permit to do that.
Okay, and if I had seal coat, just clear seal coat on it, dry cement sealer, if you will, and I needed to renew it, would I need to come see you again just to refurbish it?
Ideally, we'd be able to do that over a phone call situation if you were, it's a repair.
Yeah.
But each situation is different.
Okay.
So we'd want to talk about that.
So then if I take a color off my driveway, I would need to see you.
Yes,
ELC.
because we want to know what you're going to put back on.
Yep, all right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the residents regarding the driveway? Okay. We need to wait for Len to get back, I guess, so we can vote. All right, so let's vote on the driveway issue for the ALC. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Done.
Charging stations. You know, we're seeing many of you have hybrids, many of you have electric cars, and since they're becoming more common, we have no guidelines regarding charging stations. Most people have their charging stations in the garage, but we're trying to anticipate people that may want to have exterior charging stations. And we want to have our guidelines consistent, and we've done significant research to make sure our guidelines are consistent with state and federal standards. And like I said, we're trying to get ahead of the curve here. Before people are asking for it, we'll have something in place. And so this is what the guidelines will look like. So if you're doing something inside of your garage, no problem, okay? However, if you're going to install a 120 volt circuit, the Pinell County would want to have that, not us, but Pinell County. Level 2 charging stations require a permit.
Both level 1 and level 2, if they're new, the same.
Yes. And these are our guidelines. We don't want them installed in front of the house. They must be on the side of the house or garage. We don't want to have a little filling station look on a pedestal in your front yard. We want them painted to match the color of your house so that they don't stand out like a sore thumb. And this speaks to the freestanding. We don't want that.
Thank you, Mike and ALC, for getting ahead of this curve on this. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the proposed addition to the ALC guidelines regarding EV card charging stations as presented.
Second.
Any board discussion? Any resident discussion or question? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
No, she was kidding.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay.
The reason I chose to do all three at one time was because we're going to have to republish the guidelines. And if you do one of these and then 2 months later, I was trying to save paper here.
Makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Now we can talk about the exterior lighting guidelines. We want to make it consistent with Pinell County. And they use terms like lumens and shut-off and cut-off lighting and light spillage, cool light versus warm light. And we had some language that was confusing, and I'm back to the first bullet underneath there. We had some shells, we had some may nots, we have some musts. We're changing it all to must. We wanted to clarify some language in our current guidelines. And then we wanted to clarify the exceptions to the 10 p.m. shut-off time. and when that might be allowed to leave your lights on after 10. And we have included an addendum to the guidelines. It's a conversion chart of lumens, which is brightness, to watts. And many of us aren't quite, I learned a lot in doing this regarding that. And so we're going to have a little chart at the end of our guidelines for that. And we have been working consistently with HOA2. We co-sponsored a dark sky symposium, and then we sat down with their team to write guidelines. Their guidelines are much more specific than ours. They probably have 3 pages of guidelines. We're trying to be a little more concise with our guidelines. And they're handcuffed a little bit by the preserve, which has some newer lighting that isn't currently dark sky appropriate, and they have to deal with that. We're going to try to deal with our lighting, and we have plenty of lights that aren't dark sky appropriate, and I'll show you something. Hard to read, but I'm basically taking out will adhere. Oh, you can see the red strikeouts. I don't need to read that. But those are the current guidelines, and we're making some changes to those. The yellow are additions. We normally don't put a justification at the beginning of our guidelines, but we felt it was necessary here to talk about why we're doing this, and we want to promote dark skies, yet we want to be respectful to the people who have a concern with safety and security. There are people that strongly believe the brighter the light, the more secure I am. Listening to our dark sky presentation, there's documentation on both sides. You make it brighter for the criminal to see what they're doing. Or you scare them away with bright lights. Or the javelina gets scared away with bright lights. Well, javelina aren't scared away with my lights. But I understand the concern, and we discuss this ad nauseum about the concern for safety and security. We're basically talking about new installations here. We are not about making Joanne go down and pull the lighting off her current house and put new lighting up. We would like to encourage less wattage, okay, and maybe warmer colors as opposed to bright lights. The issue with the light that shines out the top of a sconce, we would really like people to cover that. That would be great. And there's a shell to must. So there's no major change to that to that portion of the guidelines. Just that shell to must. Again, second part of it, outdoor lighting, entry lights. And then we talked about nuisance to the community. And nuisance is a tough word to define. It's all in the eye of the beholder, especially bright lights. But you know, if you drive down the street and you turn the corner and somebody's lights are shining in your face, that can be a nuisance. Or if somebody's spotlight comes on as you drive by, that's a nuisance. Those are the things we'd like to address with this. Okay, here's a section with security and safety lighting. Here are the conditions that you can have your lights on after 10 o'clock. It's a solar or landscape, low voltage lighting, and we see those in pathways all over. And we're not going after those, we're not arguing against those at all. Those are safety issues. Motion detectors. That's a good deal. We don't want them aimed at the street, either the light and or the sensor. If your sensor is aimed at the street and it lights up every time a car drives by, we'd like you to adjust that. And we want the lumens less than 1800. I'm sorry, 1600. I can't read from this distance. Thanks, John. Okay. And then dusk to dawn lighting, the people have on their front garage doors. We want them shielded with a full cutoff light. Does not illuminate the neighbor's property or a common area. Directed in a downward motion. And again, there's the intensity of the lumens. And that's about a 40-watt light bulb that we're all, many people in their outdoor lights have 100-watt light bulbs. And we want that to be down to 40, and we prefer them to be a soft light. So here's the charts I was talking about. And these will be included. Little definition of semi-cutoff, cutoff, and full cutoff lights. Basically, if you think of a semi-cutoff light, it's a concurve light below the fixture. The light comes below the shielded fixture. A full cutoff, that light is all the way up inside there. You don't see the bulb at all. So those lights on the left are non-conforming, and we have tons of those there. So if people are getting new lights, we don't want them to use those anymore. And our if you look at this, you can see the actual bulb through the glass. The first one on the left, you can see the bulb, but it doesn't shine upward at all. It all shines down, but it's not completely shielded. And as you move to the right, they're more conforming. Those lights on those 5 lights are all dark skies conforming because they're some form of cutoff. We'll also talk about bright white light and warm white light in the handout. Basically, we're trying to do education here. We're not talking about enforcement yet, and we've talked about this with HOA2, and they're doing the same thing. They're not going to do any enforcement. They may put something in your box that says, did you know your lights aren't conforming? You should do something. But no one is giving an NOV for this at this point, and we're in agreement with HOA2 regarding that. Enforcement, before you do the motion, enforcement is key here. Vivian was in a meeting we had with the Saddlebrook Patrol, And they will, if we are given a complaint, since our volunteers shouldn't be out driving around at night looking for problems, Saddlebrook Patrol will go check it, see if that light is on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but only at our request at this point. So we're going to do a kinder, gentler look here, information first. That's our goal.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the proposed revisions regarding lighting to the ALC guidelines as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, any board discussion?
Yeah, hey, Mike, I think this is a little too much to swallow in one meeting. I'd like to have time, so therefore I'd like to propose a motion to table the motion until we can take another look at this. I think it's just too much to swallow. I see a lot of things there that I'm not sold on. And I'm not necessarily sold on Dark Skies International because, I mean, even Pinell County isn't a rule, it's just a proposal, it's just not a law. It's not an ordinance, it's not enforceable. So you're proposing that we make something enforceable that even Pinell County hasn't put enforcement on.
Well, it's our understanding that they can and they do proclaim themselves a dark sky, and that's where this all started, when they proclaimed themselves a dark sky county. So I heartily agree with that. We're at the end of a meeting right now. We're all tired. I would have no problem with tabling this.
I want to say one more thing, is that you want to go to must. Every other legal opinion I've ever read is you never use must, always use shall. So I don't know where you got that from.
Well, that came out of our committee, not from a legal person. That's something we certainly could take an advisement.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I just wanted the language to be consistent, whatever we use.
Use shall.
Okay.
I went to the Dark Skies thing, and I think it's great. The 10 p.m., I can't remember if that's us saying 10 p.m. or if that was the
that's
same
Pinell
thing
County.
from Pinell County. Because if somebody the patrol sees a house all lit after 10, what would happen?
At this point, the patrol is not looking for it. If it's reported that it's causing a nuisance to somebody, then they would check that out.
But not necessarily by patrol. Okay.
Nope.
Thanks.
First of all, thank you. This was wonderful. All your presentations were wonderful. I really appreciate them. On the lighting, so eventually, with these regulations, these will be ultimately working toward an enforceable set of regulations in the future?
At some point, yes.
At some point in the future. So by enacting them, let's say we enacted them, this month or something, next month, how far along in terms of enforceability would we be? You know what I'm saying? Would then the ALC or the patrol go out and immediately start enforcing? Is that where we're at with these I'm a little confused with these guidelines.
We are not
talking. Would there be a
talking-
waiting period of some sort?
There would be an educational period, absolutely. And that's the sticking point with this enforcement. Cutting down to it, should you have a guideline, a rule that you don't enforce? If that's the case, who enforces it? Because our volunteers should not be out doing that.
It almost makes sense that we bring this before the board once you've made a decision as to when it's going to be enforceable, because as you indicated, it's like So what are we really saying? We prefer this, but you don't have to.
Correct.
kind of a loose
What are you saying?
Educating right now.
Right now, we're educating. And HOA2 is in the same position. They're having the same discussions. We don't know, they don't know how they're going to do it, but they're doing education right now.
Does anyone have any issues with tabling this issue?
I have a point of order. The motion says, I approve the proposed revisions regarding lighting to be asserted. I mean, that's now.
Right.
So I don't know how we even do that.
You can do two things. You can amend the motion, or Mike, you could pull the motion back and say, I'm pulling the motion back. I'm not interested in getting a vote at this time.
I choose to pull the motion back.
Thank you.
Well, wouldn't it be the board member who made the motion should withdraw it? It would be Kathleen.
You made the motion.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I withdraw the motion.
All right, good.
I think.
Thanks. Okay, it comes to the conclusion of our meeting. Do we have any resident comments or questions? Please state your name, your unit, and limit them to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Ed Larson, Unit 18, number 94. What about putting like a 3-year or 5-year time frame on? We'll be looking at enforcement 5 years out on the lighting thing. Might be an option. Yeah.
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2. As a dark sky photographer who have gone all over the western United States, 10 o'clock is ridiculous. If I'm taking a picture, I'm out at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if stuff goes off at 10 o'clock, I haven't been out there. Okay, good afternoon, board members. Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2. I have forwarded third-party home price comparisons for the last several years regarding the Saddlebrook One mission of enhancement of property values that demonstrate Saddlebrook One is lagging our competitors. Over the last 2 years, the average sale price of Saddlebrook One homes has decreased almost $27,000 or $55 million or 5.1%. During the same period, Saddlebrook Two home prices have increased $4,000 per home or $13.4 million. The Saddlebrook One mission is timely response to residents, clear and transparent rules and governance, and enhance property values. When am I and the other Saddlebrook residents going to get a response that indicates what specific future actions items with project plans, budgets, and timetable Saddlebrook One has in the private 5-year plan with no updates, or 10-year non-GAAP forecast, or other items that will erase this $55 million decrease in property values? Any questions or responses as to when this might happen?
Harry, the management team, the board, the committees work every day to try to make this a better place to live, and in consequence to that, we will be improving home values. A lot of the things that you indicate, you're comparing apples to oranges. You can't compare a new community to a community that's this old as we are, and as landlocked as we are. So I can only say that everybody on the Saddlebrook team is doing everything that in their power to increase our values.
And all I'm saying is, if your mission is to enhance property values, and used to be the active adult community of choice in Arizona, which is where Robeson's marketing, then you should supply some competitive information to show that you're accomplishing your mission.
Thank you.
Larry Butterfield, Unit 4, Lot 37. I'm going back to the tennis thing that you guys voted down. I think you're kind of comparing apples to oranges. Mike, what would you consider a member of the golf club or golf course, whatever?
A resident.
Okay, so they don't have to pay anything to go onto the golf course?
No, yeah, a golfer has to pay a fee.
Okay, so if you call that a club, then when I go on the golf course with daily fees or any other fees, I've got to pay to become a member. I pay also to maintain the whole thing as a
You
whole
don't
thing.
pay to be a member, you pay to use the golf course.
Okay, so what he has is memberships that pay to have these times. And then, I'm not a tennis player, so, forgive me for that. But what they're doing is, some of the members are doing is taking some of their memberships, setting up time for these special times, and bringing people in that are just normal people that don't even pay to use the court. I pay for golfers to play because I'm a homeowner here. I pay for tennis players to play. I don't play tennis. But in order to use that specific time, they are using members to come in with non-members, with just normal people who pay to take that slot, which is a membership slot. And that's where I think you guys are getting a little bit different. That's my theory anyway. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the residents? It's a long meeting. Thank you all for coming. Meeting adjourned.